Hello there, World of Tankers. Welcome to the channel. Hopefully all of you are doing well out there. I'm, of course, your host, Drudels Blitz, and in today's video, well, we're going to be talking about the brand new Tier 10 Swedish auto-loading heavy tank, the Kranvagn, which actually stands for crane, so pretty dang cool things all around. Now, I think that the Kranvagn looks fantastic. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, but I really think that this is a nice-looking Tier 10 vehicle. It's got great frontal armor. The gun, while it doesn't have a lot of damage per minute, which you will see in just a moment, still is able to pump out the damage with a 1200 alpha clip. Honestly, I really am enjoying this vehicle. Now, of course, I have only played 3 games in the tank, but averaging 3600 damage, I cannot complain in the slightest of bits. So, as always, I'll be giving you a full review of the vehicle in today's video. I'll be telling you everything you need to know, apart from the statistics. I'll be letting you know how the tank plays with the armor profile and everything else like that. So, of course, if you enjoyed today's video and you want to see more like it, please make sure to smash that subscribe button down below, as it helps out the channel a crazy amount. But starting off, we're going to get really quickly into the statistics. I like to just burst through them with a little bit so you guys know what at least is about the vehicle, which is good, what is bad. So we're going to be starting off with the dispersion. It is 0.330. Now that's not terrible. It's definitely good when you compare it to like a T110E5. It is a little bit better than your average Tier 10 heavy. And what that means is you're not going to have to worry that much, especially with the nice dispersion and as well coupled with the 3.3 second aiming time. This gun rarely does miss. It's something that I really do enjoy because you'll notice 1968 damage per minute is terrible. And the issue, of course, with that is that if the gun was inaccurate and you missed one of your shells, that would pretty much cripple your damage per minute every shot you miss, because, of course, this is an auto-reloading tank. So it's nice that the gun is accurate and that you don't miss all of your shells, especially when you realize that this is a clipper as well. So it has the ability to load in 3 400 alpha shells. In a matter of 7 seconds, you have the ability to deal 1200 damage. Now, this is the slowest damage dealing clipper in World of Tanks Blitz currently, because it's 3.5 seconds between each shot, so it definitely takes quite a bit of time to damage the enemy. But the nice thing is that you actually have good frontal armor on this vehicle. This isn't like your AIM X50B or, you know, your T57 Heavy where you get the occasional bounce. This thing will bounce every single shell that I can pretty much tell you going on the turret, and as well, the upper plate will bounce a lot of shells as well. Now, the gun has crazy amounts of penetration. 271 on the standard is fantastic, and the premium at 374, oh yeah, you're not going to be bouncing any shells if you are running calibrated, which I would highly advise you do because of the poor damage per minute that's already mounted on the vehicle. As always, it's going to deal 400 average damage with the standard, and actually the HE is dealing a little bit more than your average at 515, which is just a nice little benefit. It also has 9 degrees of gun depression, 10 degrees of gun elevation, so extremely flexible on pretty much all terrain. Now, the frontal armor on this tank, we'll pretty much think of it as the upper plate being an IS-7. It's about 320 millimeters thick when you're aiming at it on an angle like this, which is pretty dang impressive. The turret armor is also fantastic. It is 400 millimeters thick at about an angle like this, and if you're using your gun depression, just pretty much expect every shell to bounce on your turret, because you can see that it has cupolas, but honestly, hitting those cupolas are it's not going to happen. So the turret armor on this tank is fantastic. The side armor as well isn't terrible at 80 millimeters thick. It's a little bit thicker than the 75 on the PC variant, but the biggest issue with this tank, and a lot of the issues where it comes from, is the mobility. It only goes 30 kilometers per hour forward, which you would expect it to go faster, and it was actually supposed to go 42, but Wargaming nerfed it when it was in testing, which does make sense, because I've been playing the vehicle, and honestly, even with it only going 28 on average, it still does seem really mobile, and that's because the turret traverse speed is pretty dang nice, and as well the hull traverse is good. So honestly, I don't really notice the mobility being such an issue, especially when you do have the improved engine power boost. You can also run the sandbag armor, which you will find me running here, able to bring your hit points up to 2800. That is the same as the IS-4 now. So you are pretty much like the IS-4 in hit points. You've got spectacular frontal armor. The gun, while it doesn't have the most damage per minute, as I always say, damage per minute isn't always key in Blitz. If you're able to get out a massive clip in this vehicle, 1200 damage to be exact, it is extremely deadly, especially on a map like this one, and with the penetration as well. Honestly, there's nothing I can personally complain about, at least in the 3 games I have tried out in the Kranvagn, but we're going to find out, of course, how it does go in this live live gameplay here to see if the tank does perform well, or it does fall behind in some of these statistics. So, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, as I always like to say, please make sure to consider smashing that subscribe button down below, as it helps out the channel a crazy amount. So you'll notice immediately I put on my speed boost. Now, I normally like to do that in the beginning of certain games, just because you want to use your speed boost as quickly as possible, so you can also get it back as quickly as possible. The nice thing about this tank is it goes in reverse at 18 kilometers per hour, and you'll notice there that, honestly, with the speed boost on, it's not that bad on the mobility. It really gets into position quickly, and even while it only does go 30 kilometers per hour, it really isn't terrible. As you can see, I'm easily making my way right into position. So here we go, getting into position. Now, that was a very unfortunate shot coming out of my vehicle there, but that is no biggie, because I'm not even worried about being penned by the enemy E100, but you will notice that I actually got into position so quickly, I wasn't able to load the last shell from my clip into the enemy. So here we go. Let's aim in. Let's make sure to penetrate that shell, and oof, we did get penned from the Mark 6. That would most likely be in the hull armor there, but we also did get a nice bounce on the hull as well. Now, of course, I want to try and clip out a vehicle like the Chieftain Mark 6 here. I'm practically impenetrable when I am in a hull down position, but I'm going to wait until I reload my entire clip, because of course that's going to give me more damage per minute, although at the same time there is a vehicle like that T-54 off to the side of me. But again, I'm going to make sure I can reload my entire clip. Oh, you know what, we do have tanks pushing off to the side, but I still want to make sure and try and clip out the enemy vehicles like this Chieftain Mark 6. So there is one nice shot into him. Now that he did of course shoot me, we can get another nice shot in. So we were able to trade 800 hit points off of that Chieftain Mark 6 in a pretty dang quick succession. Again, that is the ability that this tank has, is just to whip out these shells, and they really do hurt when you start to think about it on how deadly the clip is. So I'm going to reload, of course, the other shells in the clip to see if I can get out as much damage as possible here. So in 3 seconds, I will have an entire clip loaded, and there we go. So there is one shell into the Emil. Let's see if we can get, of course, the other two in as well. There is another shell in, and we're going to have that third shell loaded in as well. But of course, I'm going to stay here. I don't want to be shot by the enemy, so I'm going to reload my entire clip, you'll notice here. I'm waiting, of course, so that way I don't have to worry about being shot. So now that we've got 2 shells, there's a nice tracking shot into the Emil 2, and we're going to get one more finishing shell in. Boom! Massive shots all around, and you can definitely see this is where the tank is extremely flexible. I really am enjoying everything about this tank so far. It's so fun on the mobility, how good the tank is, and like you can definitely see here that when using that improved engine power, the mobility really doesn't seem that poor. So here we go. Gonna wait until I have that last shell in the clip. Now we can start clipping out this guy, and honestly, it wouldn't have really mattered if I had waited there to shoot him or I waited for that second shell, but that was a great game to show all of the characteristics of the vehicle. In a hull down position, you do bounce a lot of shells. In fact, we were able to do 3,600 damage there in the first battle, able to hold the line pretty dang well, and that is honestly what I think the Kranvagn is going to be great at, is just holding the line. A lot of people have been saying that the tank's going to be really bad because of the terrible damage per minute. It's not going to be able to hold a line on mines, it's not going to be able to hold a line on Normandy, but the thing is that, again, you deal 1,200 damage in a clip, and once you've taken 1,200 hit points off somebody, you still have 2,800 hit points left on your tank, and as long as you let the vehicle be fine, you have a teammate next to you, honestly, you won't be pushed on many times. So I do think that the Kranvagn is going to be an extremely strong tank for tier 10 matchmaking. Now, for tournaments, I can't necessarily say that. I think it might be used in tournaments just because of how strong the hull down capabilities are. I think that on a map like Normandy, it might be used just to hold that main position, because you literally cannot penetrate the turret with any heat shells in the game. That is extremely impressive, and again, while it doesn't necessarily have damage per minute, when you get out that clip, damage per minute is in only a relative value, because when you're getting out that clip, you have one of the highest damage per minute in the game. You've got 1,200 damage in a matter of 7 seconds. No other tanks but clippers can do that in the game. So you get at this massive clip, and then you just start reloading standard shells every 10 seconds, and honestly, it's not that bad of a deal when you start to think about it. So I personally really do like the Kranvagn, and I actually kind of thought that I wasn't going to like it when the tank first came out. I really thought, it's got bad damage per minute, it's got really bad mobility, it's not going to be a solid tier 10 heavy, Wargaming's going to have to rebalance it, but honestly, I think Wargaming did a fantastic job of making this a perfectly balanced vehicle. If you know what you're doing correctly in the tank, you know where to push it, it does do a very solid job in the current matchmaker. But I will say one thing that is not solid about the matchmaker currently, which is loading me into a battle. It has now been 1 minute and 25 seconds, and there are 187 people in queue, so no clue why it is taking so long. There we go. Finally loading into a game. I was like, any time now, please. So looking at the enemy lineup, this is actually the first tier 10 battle I have played without an enemy Kranvagn on the enemy team. So I would like to see how it does perform in a normal battle, but they still do have an Emil too. And one thing you have to remember about the Emil is that it actually carries the exact same gun as the Kranvagn. Granted, it has less premium pen, but it still carries pretty much the exact same gun. It's got the same penetration going for it. So it is a still very deadly tank. That's one thing to keep in mind when you are playing in tier 9 and tier 8, is be very, very wary of the Emil 2. It has an extremely deadly clip. The armor is fantastic frontally, and it really is going to be a very deadly vehicle. Now, in this battle here, you can see the mobility is definitely bogging me down a little bit. It's taking a lot longer for me to get into position than it normally would in your average tier 10 heavy. But there we go, nice little shot right into the grill 15, and a perfect example of that hull armor doing its job bouncing the shots. There's another shot into the grill, and honestly, normally you might be scared of a grill aiming at your frontal armor, but in this tank, I'm really not. That is what is so strong about the Kranvagn, is I'm not scared of enemy opponents at all. If I'm in a hold down position, I'm practically impenetrable to the enemy, which is a strong thing to say, but it's also the right thing to say for this tank. It really is that solid on the frontal armor. Now that grill just got a massive shell into the enemy Kampfpanzer, and if we're able to get a shell out, there's one nice shot into the Kampfpanzer. I'm just trying to get another shot out, which there, oh, actually that was not a penetration, but thankfully, even if this Mark 6 pens me, we do have a clip, which means we're able to get one more shell out into the Kranvagn as well. And there you go. That was, again, 800 damage out in just a matter of seconds. A pretty deadly result when you do think about it. Judging that now, I can just sit here patiently, wait for my shells to load back in on the vehicle, and start to clip out the enemy tank once again. So we've got the E100 right off to the side here, and I've already got an 800 damage clip loaded. So let's start and try and get out these damaging shells right into the bat. So there's one into the E100, and of course, I'm not going to try and peek it out again because there's no point to. It's just going to make my armor absolutely useless. So there we go. E100 pulled off to the side. We were able to get a nice shot into the side of him there as well. And again, this is a perfect game to show. Yeah, we didn't get out the most damage, of course, but I really did just absolutely wreck the enemy team in the amount of damage we're dealing. There we go. Nice max roll into the Kranvagn, or the Emil. They look so similar. I'm getting them all confused. But again, this wasn't a ridiculously high damage game. It was just about 3,000, about 29-ish. So it was still a good game. And you could see that, again, damage per minute is a pretty good thing. But at the same time, if you're able to get out your clips, you're able to get your shells out, you still will average a very nice amount of damage in this vehicle. So personally, I really do like the Kranvagn. I think that it is a solid tier 10 vehicle. And with that brand new auto reloading aspect, the tier 10 is a fantastic tank in my personal opinion, if you do know how to run it correctly. Now the Emil 2, I think that it is going to be extremely strong as well. I'm going to have to make a review on that as well tomorrow. And I'll be talking about the Emil 1 as a different video as well. And I honestly think the Emil 1 is the strongest of the tier. While it doesn't have the craziest of damage per minute for a tier 8 tank, it's about average for a tier 8 heavy tank, and as well, it's got the highest clip potential now, and as well, armor. It's got a lot of things going for it. Honestly, the Emil 1 looks fantastic as well in the current meta of World of Tanks Blitz, so I'm really liking all three of these tanks. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. But as always, if you enjoyed today's video and you want to see more like it, please make sure to smash that subscribe button down below. Other than that, hopefully you're all doing well out there, and I'll see you in the next one.